Apple's plan to kill the iPhone. You're not happy.
Hey everyone, welcome to the All Future Podcast. We're here multiple times a week talking about technology, the future, and everything in between. And I like to start this podcast off with a little shout out to my podcasting partner here, Ryan, who, look, here's what I love about our podcast and our on YouTube and what we're doing here, right? Is that we have no dreams of being like YouTubers at all. Right? It's like we all have other things going on in our lives. And guys, by the time you guys see this video, go on Hulu, watch Jimmy Kimmel this week. You'll be able to see my man Ryan here playing the drums in his band. I say his band. You're part of the band. I don't know what the proper word is there. Ryan is in Jeff Goldblum's band, and you will see Ryan drumming if you watch Tuesday's episode of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. So check it out. See what Ryan actually does in his life when he's not sitting here talking about robots with me. So very cool. I know you've done big shows before and been on TV and stuff before, but I just think it's really cool, man.
Thank
and
you.
I think
Thank
it
you.
makes you better at talking about technology and stuff because you have this kind of a more full spectrum view of the world and life, and you're not some kid who's never done anything with his life talking about leaked Apple rumors in a basement. You're a guy who's done at least a couple things in his life talking about Apple rumors in your cool garage studio. So it's a slight upgrade, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
But speaking of Apple stuff, let's talk about this whole video is really, it's a little bit about the post iPhone world, I think, as a kind of a way to think about it, and what Apple does after smartphones are no more, and kind of their first kind of let's try something out with that was the Apple Vision. So, which you're an Apple Vision user.
I am.
So let's talk about kind of where Apple's going, what's up next for the Apple Vision.
Yeah. So I've seen some people, I think actually Marquez posted, and he just said, I'd love to see a chart of daily usage from Apple Vision users. And I looked through because I assumed these would be the comments. All the comments are like just an immediate fall off to zero. But me, it's been more like down and then like up, and then it's kind of this.
You're in waves, huh?
You know, it was much more at the beginning, but yeah, it is definitely in waves, and sometimes it's actually my preferred way to watch stuff. And then if I travel, I use it more, and then I come back and it's sitting there and I don't really use it. I don't really use it for work in the ways that Apple envisioned people using it for work. And I'm not sure what the average person is using it for, but I do think there's a lot of potential for this product. I think it is really impressive, but it's still that price tag.
You're talking about you're kind of going in these little waves and upsurges. What's bringing you back to it when it hits a little upsurge again?
It's kind of just remembering that it exists.
I was gonna ask, is it you going like, yeah, I spent $3,000 on this, I should use it?
I
Is
think
it that?
there's a factor there.
Or are you like, oh, this would be cool if I chucked it on Vision Pro? Or is it as they actually build more content things for it?
It's that too, yeah. I do like opening up the App Store every time I open it because there's like always something new, at least, that we haven't seen before. And when it's a new app for the Apple Vision, you know, it's like fully newly designed for this. It might be some kind of new experience, but it is partially the money thing. But then every time I do come back, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really great. It is incredible how the windows are all around you. The pass-through's really good. I love watching movies and TV shows that way. Sometimes I tend to just get a little too distracted. Like if my phone is nearby and I'm watching something on TV, I will end up on my phone and I'm like, I want to watch this show. So I actually like it because I can just kind of lay down and put the screen in whatever position I want it exactly in front of me, and then I can really focus in on the show. And it's full quality, so it's bigger than I'm used to. It's really good. It's a great viewing experience for stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, partially it's, man, I spent so much money on this, or I want to at least be up to date to talk about it on the podcast. And then I put it on, and I'm like, oh man, this is really good. So
yeah. And well, it's interesting you say that, right? Because I mean, anytime we've talked about it, what do you always talk about? It's immersive, the screen, all this kind of stuff over and over and over. And when you look at these kind of new set of rumors, they're like, we got to cut the cost. Let's cut the screen quality.
Yeah.
it's like the thing that makes it great is kind of a thing that probably needs to downgrade a little for people to actually get in people's hands. And then you got to wonder if, I'm sure Apple has, kind of thought about this a lot, right? They're like, well, what's that tipping point because right now you put it on, you're like, this is so cool, this is awesome. $3,500 seems like a lot.
Yeah.
But it would not seem as cool and as awesome if it cost $1,000, because that screen quality, that immersion would drop.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. Right now, the rumor is that they're putting the second version of the Pro, I guess, on the back burner in favor of an Apple Vision Air that would be cheaper. They're aiming for like $1,500. I think a lot of people would need to see it even less than that. But yeah, if they have to cut the screen quality back from... Maybe they can do something to where it's like, it's not as great, it's not as awesome, but it's still 4K. Like, that would be great. But if they have to cut back that screen to where it's closer to something like a Quest, where you watch stuff and it's not better than watching it on a TV. The TV's still better. I'm not sure. I think that's kind of their biggest strength right now is the screen quality. So maybe they will find out a way they are reducing the screen's quality or bringing down its cost, but it's still really good, because I think a big thing that Apple is also pushing is all this immersive stuff. And I've been watching a lot of it to try to catch up, and it's really cool. There's really good experiences. There was a dinosaur one I was watching. So that's all obviously animated, but you feel like you're on Earth as you are used to being.
And then, you actually are.
Yes.
So check.
And then there's dinosaurs roaming, and it's like an experience you never really have, because when you're watching it on TV, it's one thing, it's something removed, but this is like putting you in it to make you kind of go, wow, this was real. This is what it was on this planet before us. And it's really cool in those ways. And then there's behind the scenes stuff like the World Cup. They've been doing stuff for basketball, and just sitting courtside and actually experiencing it in 3D is unlike anything else. But I think the quality needs to be there. And obviously it's filmed at incredible quality. It's made for the Apple Vision Pro. So then if they downgrade that, I don't know. I think that's kind of their big focus. So I think they're going to figure out a way to do it and keep the quality on this displays. They have to know that's the thing that's keeping people on this thing.
For sure. Here's a thought, right? If Apple had started to develop this product post the advent of consumer LLMs and AI, it would be a very different product. And I think because Apple, this thing is really it's a visual computer system, I guess, is what they have made, which is, it turns out, not really what people kind of want. I think what people have always envisioned with this is more that true mobile computing system that can give you visual information, right? And that seems to be where things are headed, I think. And we talk about Apple developments all the time with the Apple Glass and stuff. But the Meta Ray-Bans, right? Like those are really lean more into that kind of, this is a mobile AI device to help you with your daily life, not a new way to see a computer monitor.
And those really just focus on the cameras and seeing stuff around you. And I think it's one of those things where it's gotten better, and it's gotten better in software updates, which is always kind of, I think, a little unfortunate part about a lot of technology like this, is that the reviews we have of the Meta Ray-Bans and like the general perception of it is kind of when it launched. But I think it has gotten better to have more of that multimodal capability. And our producer, Andrew, has used them. I don't know if he still has them, but
yeah, that might say a lot if he returned them. But
yeah, that probably would. I think he might have. I don't know, but I think he likes the speaker, and that it's like kind of just you're out and it's on sunglasses instead of headphones. But I think he's used it when traveling and able to ask it questions and stuff about what it's seeing, and that's a functionality that's kind of newer. And yeah, that kind of stuff is really cool. And I think a big part of what people want with these visual elements, it's that you can ask questions in real time about what is all around you. And right now with the Vision, I don't want to go outside of a room with the Vision.
Wait, it's not even designed for that, right? Yeah. It's designed to be a thing at your desk, right? It's almost, and I think the Vision is cool technology, right? But like, it's solving a problem that maybe didn't exist. Like, it's just like, like it's like, it's more immersive, all this kind of stuff, right? But it's just displaying the information I'm already getting, but in a different way that's not necessarily a better, more effective way, right? Especially when I have to go put these things on, do all this kind of stuff. Or if you look at something like the Ray-Bans or whatever, like the Meta stuff, which is more about a wearable computer that you can use in your everyday life that is helping you out. You know, I mean, I know it's completely different. people associate these things together a little because they're both things in front of your face, but the Meta Ray-Bans are really a complete different kind of product, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, back to what I said at the beginning, that's why I feel like if Apple had seen what was happening with LLMs and AI and all this kind of stuff, I don't know if they would have put so much money toward Vision Pro. Maybe they would have put money toward more a wearable iPhone interface speaker system thing,
Yeah, and that kind of seems to be where they're going, because I guess one of the problems with the Meta Ray-Bans is it's Meta. You're locked into that ecosystem.
Yeah, no, Meta's not cool, like, right?
Yeah, maybe someone on this podcast is like, "Are you kidding me? That's my favorite company in the world." Someone watching, and I'm sorry, but
I like Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I use Instagram. Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, most people are not going to be like, "Ooh, I want to go all in on the LLMs coming out of Meta." It's going to be, you want your ecosystem, whether that's Google or definitely Apple. For Apple users, they're going to want Apple Intelligence on a future version of this. So yeah, that could be where this goes in the future. Maybe Apple ends up with two different products that they eventually want to combine. You have this incredible visual device up here with the Apple Vision Pro. Then you have this like AI assistant that is just the glasses and doesn't have really visual components. And then over time, those can morph and become one thing once the technology gets there. But I'm very curious to see where this all leads. And that leads to that rumor, or we've seen patents for what Apple is working on with Apple glasses or Apple Sapphire. I'm pitching that name.
Tim, listen up. You got to pick this name.
We will do an entire episode on that if I'm right. Like,
we'll probably do a whole episode on it either way.
Well, yes.
But
it will just be an entire episode of me saying, I told you it would be called Apple Sapphire.
If it's called that, I'll wear a clown suit or something that day. I'll do something. I'll take a hit if that's what it's called in recognition. I'll be the jester, and you will be the king that day, if that's what they end up calling it.
Yeah. I could see the cheapest form factor of that, though, being it doesn't even have speakers built in. You just use AirPods. So it's like you wear your glasses that have cameras, and then you have AirPods in your ears.
That's absolutely what it's going to be,
And it could
right?
even, if they even want to get it lighter and all this stuff, it could really just interface with your phone.
The glasses part for this style system don't even matter, because it's not just giving you any visual data at all. It's just a convenient way to put cameras and speakers on your face, right?
Which, in theory, the AirPods could do, but
the AirPods with cameras this is a thing that I think aren't going to happen. So we'll see. But I also wonder, as much as I think stuff is cool, right? It still has like a little bit of a road to travel here, and sort of in terms of consumer acceptance. I had someone talk to me this week, and they were like, "Hey, this ChatGPT is pretty cool." I'm like, yeah, it's pretty neat. I do a lot of stuff with it. And they were talking about how they use it in their daily lives. And I was like, yeah. They're like, I had no idea it did all this. Because what happens now is that most people kind of see it with just dumb demos, right? Which are so useless. Like, I hate almost all demos of LLM stuff because it's so lame.
Yeah.
Right? And then people hear about it when it hallucinates and gives like a crazy answer to a thing, right? What people don't really see are the things it's incredibly effective at, right? Like this kind of organization, research help, all this kind of stuff. Like it works so good for the person I was talking to. There's someone who does these like long form video essays on YouTube. So they do like horror movie video essays, right? Like it's like 2 hour long videos, like crazy stuff, right? And they were talking about how much it's cut down their research time because it'll find obscure things that it kind of breaks the mold of what most of those videos are, which is reading the Wikipedia article, right? Because it can find things that are weird and different, and you can have it do things that aren't associated with kind of the normal places to find that information, right? And he was giving a specific example of having loading up a YouTube transcript in it and like telling it, hey, can you find me the 4 things that this actor said about this film in this 2 hour interview? And they're like, cool, here they are, and then you could tell it to like, well, now can you organize that and where that was in the timeline of the creation of this film? Oh, cool. Well, that happened here, like 2 months before the film came out, right? Like all this kind of like, that's where it really shines, is all this like next level stuff that I feel like people don't even realize it can do. Because what all the demos are, ChatGPT, tell me who the 16th president was. And he's like, Abraham Lincoln. It's like, well, who cares? Like, it's not doing anything fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, it's not doing anything useful, right? In the demos where it can do that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I see things like the Meta Ray-Ban things, people aren't demoing them in the ways that could be cool. Like it's basically they're just like showing, oh, I can look at this thing and you can tell this. And it's like, what? Like it can be so much better than that.
Yeah. I am curious to try them. You mentioned just buy them to try them out.
Yeah.
I'm curious to just do that as well, just to do certain use cases. And then if in 14 days I'm not a fan, I can return them. But yeah, the LLM on your face is an interesting concept. I'm interested to see what that could be for Apple in the future.
And the way it kind of the reason the cameras on the glasses make a lot of sense as opposed to other places, if we use the model from the film Her, right, where he's just got it in his pocket, it's a little harder if you say like, hey, what's this? All right, and I'm looking this way, right, but like the camera's this way. Like the LLM's going to have some problems figuring out what you're talking about, right? But the kind of like head positioning is a valuable tool for interfacing with an AI.
It's true.
Because you can say like, what's this thing I'm looking at? What's that thing behind the camera, right? Like, and then it can like see, oh, well, there's the camera. There's what's behind it, right? It can start piece together your world a lot better than if it was just a static camera system, right? And it is that kind of time saver of, pulling the phone out, taking a picture, doing all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
If it's good, if it's the the humane pen, then whatever.
Yeah,
it's not
that's been a whole
out.
story this week that I think returns are outpacing sales right now. The humane pen, shocking nobody.
I assume sales are zero.
Yeah.
Like what? Who? I don't think anyone actually bought this to use this, right? Like it seems like everyone who bought it were, YouTubers and tech journalists and stuff like the curious people.
Yeah.
Maybe someone who just wasting money, but yeah, of course every single one of these units is getting returned, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. But I do like the idea of it reducing the time that you're taking out your phone. It may be keeping you more engaged in the actual world because the information isn't interrupting your visual field or whatever. But if Apple were to make this, I'm going to ask you some predictions.
Oh, let's do it.
How long until this would release? It's 2024 right now.
It's 2024 right now. The thing that Apple wants to really make, I think, we're like 2028.
And so you're talking with like visual elements, or
not even
not?
visual elements, man. Like, okay, maybe with visual elements, but I don't think Apple wants to make just a pair of sunglasses with camera on it. Like, I don't think Apple has any interest in doing that. So I think we are a few years out from this.
Yeah.
And again, and the other thing that we bring up a lot, but we haven't in this particular video, is the kind of social privacy concerns of people walking around with cameras on their faces.
Yeah.
And not that it matters because cameras are capturing us all the time anyway, blah, blah. But it's the perception of it.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a lot of problems with. And I don't know if Apple even wants to play in that world.
Yeah, and that's a lot of visual data that they're going to be working with and having to learn from, which is a whole other element of Apple Intelligence that I guess that's something they haven't really shown us. They didn't like demo us pointing our phones at different things.
Like true, like complete multimodal stuff. We haven't really seen that yet. Maybe that's the paid features that we talked about earlier in another video. It's like, what are the things that are going to make us pay for Apple Intelligence? Some kind of integrated multimodal system.
Yeah, it seems like it. And then how much would these glasses be if they go down that road?
You got to make these things sub $1,000. Like everything needs to be like, especially if the way I think consumers look at things right now, right, is that a phone is an expensive purchase for a lot of people. But I have no data on this. Look it up. I don't know. But last time I saw it, most people still finance their phone some kind of way. Like very few people pay for their phone outright. So it hides that $1,000 spread over 2 years.
Yeah.
So it all of a sudden isn't that big of a hit. But if you look at things like, what's the most popular kind of Apple Watch, all these kind of things, it's never the more expensive version, right? Like, so you need, it's hard for people to pay over $1,000 for a wearable, I think.
Yeah.
So you've got to be below that, especially if it's a wearable that's just kind of an ecosystem thing, right? Like, let's say it is designed to work with AirPods. It does use the computer or use the phone for its computing power. I think you got to be at like $400 on something like that.
Definitely.
I don't even, how much are Meta Ray-Bans? I don't even know.
That's a good question. We should probably know
We
that.
should probably know that.
I could look it up real quick.
Sure.
right.
Intermission to look it up, everyone.
It looks like the cheapest one starts at about $300 for the Meta Ray-Bans.
Sweet spot there, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, a nice pair of Ray-Bans is $100 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like, oh, another $200 for cool feature. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And then Apple, you just add the Apple tax on top of that. And
Yeah, put the Apple tax on top of it. It ends up at $5.99. Sounds right.
So the big question with all of that, I guess, is how long it would take for Apple to essentially eliminate the iPhone. I don't think they want to eliminate the iPhone, but the future works that way. They're looking forward. They're a publicly traded company in a capitalist society that needs to continue innovating, continue figuring out the next thing. And eventually, I could see how these products in a future where multimodal stuff works incredibly well could replace the iPhone.
Absolutely.